This is Jocko Podcast number 493 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
Jonathan Andrew Pebley, call sign Mayhem, was killed by a Russian drone strike while fighting in Ukraine, according to a social media post from a American military expert and vlogger, Chris Capelluto. I've just been informed Mayhem is KIA in Ukraine. He died trying to save two of his buddies, said Capelluto, who had interviewed Pebley earlier this year for his YouTube channel. From talking to him, he was a stand-up guy, dedicated to the defense of Ukraine. He was very interested in the political side of the fight when I spoke to him, meaning he was steadfastly against Putin and his aggressive war. Pebley was a U.S. Marine Corps and Iraq War veteran and had served as a machine gunner with the Delta Knights unit in the International Legion under Ukraine's main intelligence directorate. After leaving the Marines, Pebley worked at various jobs in different countries before arriving in Ukraine in August 2024. In an interview with Capelluto earlier this year, Pebley said that he had found his purpose in Ukraine. Quote, "This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel at home again. Everything makes a lot more sense, even though I don't speak the language. Somehow, life makes more sense here than it did any time since I got out in 2009. End quote. And that right there is an excerpt from an article from the Kiev Post from just a few days ago. Came out on 26 May 2025, reporting on yet another casualty in that vicious war. And the quotes in the article are from an interview by Chris Capelluto, who's better known as Chris Cappy, who's a former National Guard U.S. Army soldier, an Iraq War veteran who traveled to Ukraine as a journalist to get or try and get some ground truth on the war there. And he took the risk associated with being a war zone to do that. And he reported on his experiences and his lessons learned and what he saw. And it's an honor to have him here with us tonight to share all the lessons he's learned over the years, not only in Ukraine, but also in the Army National Guard, combat in Iraq, reintegration into civilian life, a little bit of activity in the corporate world, and then his journey from a video editor to the chief creator at his own channel, which is called Cappy Army. Chris, thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it was really, really heart-wrenching to have watched your interviews with Mayhem and then see you posting that. It's also a good reminder of something that I was trying to remind people of, that the people that are fighting are people. They're not just soldiers. They're not just numbers. They're human beings. And there's another one that is gone. So I suppose we'll get into all that stuff as we move through this podcast, but let's get a little bit of the background, on Cappy, where you came from, what was going on. You're growing up. You and I are both East Coasters. You're from Long Island, right?
That's
Long
right.
Island.
Yeah, I grew up on Long Island where I get coffee and bagels.
What year were you born?
1989.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you caught the last bit of that decade. And what were your parents doing when you were growing up?
My dad was a conductor on the railroad. He punched tickets.
Which one?
The Long Island Railroad.
Okay.
So from out east on Long Island, he'd take all the commuters into New York City every morning.
Yeah, I don't think I ever rode that because I don't think I ever had a reason to go out to Long Island from New York. But, oh well, all right.
Yeah, so he punched tickets for 35 years or so. Every day, worked really, really hard. That was one of my earliest memories, actually, is growing up, and he would take me on the train. I get to ride for free, which is pretty cool.
Huge
and
benefit.
Get to go see the engine in the front, and we'd go to the city all the time. And, yeah, I just remember how hard he worked and how, he's supporting my sister and my brother and me, and yeah, really good guy.
And what about your mom?
My mom was a IRS agent for the government, and she would
geez.
always tell me not to tell people that. So I'm sorry, Mom, that I'm telling people that you work for the IRS. She was in IT. She wasn't auditing you. So,
Did you have any military veteran like background in your family?
so my mom's father, my grandfather, was in the Korean War.
Okay.
He was in the 2nd ID as an artilleryman.
Check. How was his hearing?
Shot.
Just
Just completely shot. He would always yell at us
Yeah.
to like just normal things that he was saying. Actually, he has a funny story about that. So when he was on the gun batteries and they would do fire missions all day, it got so bad that they couldn't hear the fire missions come in anymore. So what they would do is put their hand on the phone so that they could feel the vibrations of the phone ringing.
Dang.
So, okay, there you go. All right, we got a fire mission. That's how absolutely deaf they were.
Yep.
And the VA, it's not service connected
No,
until he
that's-
was like 80. Then they were like, okay, fine.
And you said you have an older brother and a younger sister?
Yeah, my really huge age gaps. So my older brother is 8 years older than me, and my younger sister is 6 years younger.
Dang. That's a weird family planning or lack of planning. One of those two. It's either an interesting, I have like a really tight shot group for my first 3 kids, and then I have one like stray round. And how was that? But so that means your older brother was babysitting you and stuff, I'm assuming, at some point.
Yeah, I think the thing about having a big age gap between your siblings is that my understanding is there's like less rivalry usually because you're so far apart that it's more of sort of a mentor relationship that you'll have. Like my older brother and I, we never really were competitive with each other like how a lot of siblings are, especially guys, I think, at that age. So I just looked up to him my whole life, and always he was going through these milestones in life. Like it's a way to kind of look into the future 8 years and see, okay, the college is going to happen and it's going to be like this. So it really gave me an opportunity to see what was coming and how to kind of navigate it. And he would always give me advice as well. So amazing, I think, having that, even though maybe you're not quite as close because he was so much older. Like by the time I was 10 or 11, he's out the door. He's going to college and then living around the world. So
What did he do in college?
He studied computer graphics. So he went straight into like the movie industry and working on different movies like Spider-Man and stuff in the computer effects world.
Okay.
So
Echo Charles is kind of getting curious over here. He's special effects curious.
Sure. Yeah. Hell yeah.
And then what, did
3D
you do the
curious?
same thing for your little sister then?
And yeah, so I tried my best to be a good older brother and to answer any questions that she had in the same way. And again, like we weren't super close because she's so much younger and I was out gone and off and traveling around the world as well. But now we live much closer to each other and we have a good relationship. So she's like another both of my siblings are just geniuses when it comes to like math and science. And I was such a screw up in school. And so she's a quantum physicist for Amazon working on quantum computings. There you go. That's how smart I am.
So how did you end up being a screw up in school then?
Oh my God. I was a nightmare. They were so well behaved and I was just an absolute nightmare from like the get-go. And I think part of it, like my parents split when I was pretty young, when I was 11. And so like the divorce, I think when you're at that age, that formative age you want any kind of attention, negative attention, any sort of attention. So I would act out and my teachers hated me.
What does act out consist of?
Act out consists of the point where they're like, we're gonna kick you out of school. You need to get your act together. You need to misbehave a lot. You need to be the class clown. You need to get into fights, but not like win the fights, like get my ass kicked. And I was bullied a lot. And I, like every time the principal would call, they'd be like, "What'd you do, Chris?" Everyone in the class would say, "What'd you do this time?" You're going to go to the principal's office again. And I think it was a cry for help.
Yeah.
But I was in all of the like special help classes, all of the you need remedial training on this so bad. Like what aren't you getting?
And was it just a public school?
Yes, I went to public school throughout.